once that is understood, the real journey really begins, because when we see through seeking and we see that seeking is something the ego does, which is always gonna run in circles in a hamster wheel, then the real spiritual journey begins, because then we stop projecting something, hope, onto the future, and we realize our predicament and realize that there's really only our contraction and our resistance to this moment preventing us of fully becoming one with it. The entire spiritual journey is kind of a waste of time and energy, right? And in a sense it is, and in a sense it isn't. In the sense that it is a waste of time is when we identify with the seeker. When it's not even then a waste of time. Nothing is really a waste of time, because we all go through these experiences to eventually transcend and integrate them. But, if we want to put it into very simple words, we could say that when we identify with seeking, when we seek, when we tense up around that, if we feel like we are working on something, like building a business, working towards something, working towards self-realization, working towards enlightenment, working towards awakening. And if there's something we feel like that is not already there, right? Like, in a sense, if we think we are walking through the Sahara Desert to get to an oasis, then we are wasting our time, because that is not true. We are literally already in the oasis. We are literally sitting in the oasis. We are sitting in heaven right now. And the only thing we are doing is maybe taking off our blindfolds or waking up to where we are, what we are, right? Already. And that is so funny, because it's really, beforehand it was such a deeply ingrained conditioning and conviction and belief that the spiritual journey is a process. But this vision, for the first time really in my life, made really clear that it's not like how I saw it before. And once that is understood, the real journey really begins, because when we see through seeking and we see that seeking is something the ego does, which is always gonna run in circles in a hamster wheel, then the real spiritual journey begins, because then we stop projecting something, hope, onto the future, and we realize our predicament and realize that there's really only our contraction and our resistance to this moment preventing us of fully becoming one with it, right? Of what already is here, the ground of being, the freedom, the peace, the unconditional love. And then the real spiritual work begins, because then we see that, wait, if I'm already in heaven right now, if the ground of being is already here right now, why do I feel so shitty? Why do I feel so depressed? Why do I feel so unsatisfied? Why do I feel so frustrated? Why do I feel so annoyed? Why do I feel so whatever it may be, right? ... What is it? And that is where the real juice begins, because then we see the pointlessness of our previous seeking and actually see how that seeking was a distraction from the real work, the real journey, if you will, the pathless path. And then we face the uncomfortable things. And also, that is one part. And the other part is just recognizing that we are free already, even while or before the emotions get processed and that embodied and integrated enlightenment unfolds. Even before that, we can recognize how, even in a sense, with our traumas, it is possible to recognize that being, right? And that gives us such a newfound freedom. It is initially a bullet to bite, right? That we see, oh fuck, like I've been investing all my energy into a illusion, into a fantasy, into seeking, into a spiritual journey that didn't existed in the form I thought, right? Which was getting somewhere. The actual journey is dissolving here and now and realizing what already is, which does not require the same type of effort that we previously identified with that previous perspective. I explained the very same thing that I just shared with you to ChatGPT, and it responded. So it's really like a boomerang. We are not achieving anything, we are not creating anything, we are really only dissolving the contraction that we have come to identify with into the ground of a being that is already there. Imagine the air around us is being, right? And self-realization or consciousness. Or what would be an even easier example is imagine that it's not just air but humidity, right? Like steam, right? Steam, like in a steam bath, a sauna, right? And what our identity is basically a contracted form of that steam, which, you know, when steam contracts, it goes to water, and then when it contracts even more, it goes to ice. So in a sense, initially, and I've heard that a couple times before, but this time it really clicked from a different type of angle. The analogy of going from ice to water to steam is not even that accurate, because that also implies a process, right? But what I saw in that moment or that insight was more like seeing that being is already there, the ground of being is already there, and all the spiritual practices don't lead anywhere. They don't, because what I saw, my friend was sitting there and looking outside as though he would reach somewhere higher, go anywhere. But really what became clear is that it's already, the job is in a sense already done. Like it is already here. We literally go nowhere else, and we really just stay where we are, and we really only dissolve ourselves into what is already here. And the thing is, some of the words I'm using here, I've heard before, and they never made that click. And I don't know if it's even possible to communicate that, or if one really only can get to a point where it makes click for oneself and it is seen. But it was funny to see that, because I saw that all the energy I'm investing is really unnecessary. It's a little bit like, imagine investing 5 to 10 years into building this huge business, and you hire people and you do client acquisition and all the things that are necessary, legal work, all the things, HR, all the things that are required to build a business. It's a huge project, right? Building a huge, maybe multi-million-dollar business over 5 to 10 years. And then that was kind of my previous, a little bit of my previous mindset approaching awakening. And now what I'm realizing is that in a sense that is all for waste, because what you discover is that business is already built. It is already built. Or you already have the multi-million dollars in your bank account. Again, these analogies aren't exactly accurate, but it goes to show that in a sense, nothing needs to be done. It's like we are already, in that example, multi-millionaires, or we already have that business, which does not require the same type of effort that we previously identified with that previous perspective. And maybe there's something you could take from this, and there was some use in it. I wish I could really just transfer that insight and vision to you. It was really a fascinating thing and really shifted my perspective, and I'm sure it will fade again and I'll fall back into the previous mindset at times. But yeah, that's why I'm also recording this video for myself, to remind myself. So much love.